I put my trust in you, and I trust in love. I put my trust in you, I put my trust in love. I put my trust in you, and I trust in love. I put my trust in you, I put my trust in love.
Hello, friends. My name is Dave Miller.
And I'm Niall Spain, and we're your fuck buddies.
We are a dating and sex advice podcast where we take your sticky, sexy situations and turn them into sexy, sticky situations.
Simply put, we are a sex and dating advice podcast, and we find questions either roaming the wilds of the internet or we get them sent into ourselves by people who are wonderful like yourselves, and we answer them right here, right now, in your ears, every Monday.
What are we talking about this week now?
This week, we're talking about boyfriend wants to dump me because I'm a metalhead?
Having the world's smallest clit.
Why do girls always leave mid-date?
And having your girlfriend's best friend ruining your relationship.
Aw, dunk.
Before we get started,
Okay.
there was some, I guess you could say, drama due to the subject matter of our, what?
Never mind.
of, regarding subject matter of our last episode.
Yes.
Involving a certain blonde,
Tall,
singer, willowy, giraffe-like.
Did we call her a singer?
We all know her as Taylor Swift, but we call her poor man's Courtney Love.
Do we? We call her Taylor Quick.
I call her Taylor. Really, that's as fast as you go?
Taylor underwhelming, honestly. Taylor could probably still beat in a race despite those giraffe legs. No, this is bad.
No, we don't want to body shame.
No,
Taylor
she looks
Swift.
great.
Yes. I think this is also something we can talk about in an actual way.
Well,
No, we were warned. My darling, lovely partner was like, are you... Oh, yes, first and foremost. Oh, God.
oh, you sprayed me.
Hell yeah, I did.
Cheers.
At least I didn't get it on the fucking microphone. My darling, lovely partner was like, are you insane? You can't talk about Taylor Swift on your podcast. And my response was, I'm going to do it.
Let them come.
Now that you've said it, I don't even care about the rest of, I don't care about our 5-year or 6-year legacy, however long we've been doing the show.
That's how little he cares about it. He doesn't even know what it is.
This is now, the only thing I want to do is incite the ire of the Swifties.
But we quite like Swift. Shit, I shouldn't tell that. I mean, I do have something on this topic I do want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm going to a Taylor Swift dance party, and I've been thinking about what my costume is going to be.
Sexy baby.
Apparently, I mean, we've all had the dream, right? I wanted to go as Jake Gyllenhaal, but apparently...
Fight Club.
No. Jake Gyllenhaal Roadhouse?
Roadhouse.
Yeah. Apparently Jake Gyllenhaal is already like a mainstay. Like they have like cardboard cutouts. Oh yeah, he's the... Again, I don't know what song.
I know nothing.
The whole red scarf thing, I believe.
Is it his scarf?
It's Maggie.
Did he steal her scarf?
It's his sister's, Maggie Gyllenhaal's
What?
scarf? I don't know,
Did
man.
Taylor rob Maggie Gyllenhaal?
I think Taylor Swift
Is that what
mugged.
Roadhouse is about?
It is. Roadhouse is about Jake Gyllenhaal getting revenge for his poor defenseless sister and Taylor Swift's vicious mugging of her scarf.
Red is a violent color.
Mhm.
And giraffes bite hard.
That's
Okay,
why that song is like, it's you, shape of your color, it's red.
I stabbed you in the head. Then I stole your scarf.
You stupid Maggie Gyllenhaal bitch.
You spent 8 weeks in bed. Are we done with that? Because I got something to
I
talk
think we
about.
can move on. A bit.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about Mr. Travis Kelce.
Yes.
We see...
Taylor Swift's famous French boyfriend.
Yes, Travis Kelce. He was getting some body shame abuse.
You know what? And it's funny.
This man just won a superb bowl.
The bowl that he won,
Super.
I would say probably one of the best.
Yeah, he just won a big bowl that a lot of people are hype about. So, like, you can't come after this man. I guess we got to dial back and say what happened.
Yes. So there was a picture of him and his extremely long-limbed...
How tall is Taylor Swift? Did we talk about
like
this? She 5'11"?
7'8".
7'8"?
Yeah, she's huge.
Really
man.
short giraffe.
No, I think you are right. I think I think you called shot at last episode.
Yeah, it's what I felt.
5'11", I think, is correct. Either way, there's a picture of them in like Florida or somewhere warm on a beach, hanging out, being cute, the way that they are. And let me tell you. Let me tell me about this. I've caught Kelce Swift fever. I didn't really give a shit about him because it's a sports boy, and I'm not a sports boy.
But you're a b-ball boy.
We
based our entire podcast identity
on basketball.
Which honestly, I'm sorry guys, we haven't talked about enough lately. I'm
sorry, you're right.
That's why no one's on the Patreon.
However,
like, there's no basketball.
There's no
guess
basketball.
What? We're gonna fix that right after this episode.
There's no basketball bonus content. But like the more I read about Travis Kelce, and even just his goofball brother, the other Kelce,
Francis Kelce.
I don't remember his name, but like there's funny pictures of him doing funny things. I think he just retired. Whatever. But like, Travis Kelce just like bought a big building, like a full fucking building to help kids, like underprivileged kids, like study engineering and tech, and like essentially like get kids who would never really have the opportunity to pursue STEM careers, like a leg up, and like, yeah, I was like, I love it. You know what? The more I learn about this dude, the more I'm like, why is he with her?
but people came for his body, and not in the like. They didn't come for his body. It's the opposite. They said they couldn't come because they didn't like his body.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things to be said about this. I think one, Taylor Swift is in that photo in a bikini, and I'm glad no one said anything about her. I'm sure someone did.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that the media attention...
It's nice in a way that, women have it hard all the time.
Yes.
So it's cool that people aren't giving her shit. Again, they probably are. I
think most news publications or like...
Oh, they're probably terrified.
I think they knew
and that's good.
If they were like, Taylor Swift looks a little whatever.
A little giraffe.
They would be descended upon like locusts at the end of times.
Like maybe we will be, because you seem determined to kick the nest. We love her. But at the same time, while we can be super happy that women are getting a break, we're pretty bummed that men aren't.
It's true. There's a thing, and like I remember I've been talking about this for years because body image has been something I've dealt with for a long time.
Oh,
and
for sure.
And it's the thing that every guy deals with. I think it's a universal human experience.
I think everybody deals with it, but like the sad fact is that like men aren't allowed to deal with it.
And there's really no outlet for it.
Yes.
Right? Like, we've gotten the Dove campaigns of being like, love your body, everybody's beautiful, blah, 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 blah. But like, there hasn't really been that for men.
Yeah. And let's be fair, unfortunately, there is a subset of people who like, when you try to bring this up, go like, what about women though? And it's like, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't that men should be taken care of and women shouldn't be, but bringing up an issue doesn't mean we're disregarding the other one.
And this is something we've talked a lot about on the show, and it's a big reason why we've started the show, where you have to understand that like a lot of these issues, a lot of these things, a lot of the struggles we have in modern society when it comes to the division of gender roles and stuff like that isn't a us versus them.
Yeah.
It's not men versus women. It's not women versus whatever.
There's this same hammer falling on all of us.
Yes. It is the hammer of patriarchal society. Yeah. It is the hammer of toxic masculinity. It is that.
I will say, I think a lot of people, the reason they look at it that way is because patriarchal and toxic masculinity are gendered. I think if we had a word that wasn't that, more people would be like, but whatever.
Yes.
That's a different conversation.
I mean,
it's not wrong. It's just
correct. Yeah. I mean, it's like there's a reason why I like to reframe toxic masculinity as toxic socialization.
Yeah.
Because women perpetuate toxic masculinity. And I've been, you and I have both been victims of the same way that I imagine most men have been victims of. And in fact, I think one of the questions that I bring up, I don't remember what I even said. Either way.
Hey, I'm going to tell you now, I'm doing my questions backwards. So
Hell yeah.
because I couldn't remember the first
A
one.
little Missy Elliott.
Yeah.
Put your thing down, flip it, and reverse
I did.
it.
I put my thing down, and I haven't flipped it and reversed it yet, but I'm warning you that I'm about to.
Yeah.
So that you can make room in this small closet, because I don't want to like catch you underneath it and
Right.
like mulch you.
It's your flipping it down. Yeah.
It is my
Either way, what we're saying is men's bodies are not available for comment just as much as women's bodies shouldn't be.
Also, like, the best thing is people are disparaging him, and it's like, it's not even like he's a pro athlete. One,
and
two, he's a current pro athlete. It's not even like he used to be.
Yeah.
And it's been a decade. He won a Superb Bowl.
Also,
a
in
mere
sport
matter of
in which you're meant to be big.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's a lot of football players who I imagine are quite toned in terms of physique. Sure. But, like,
probably not, though. Or at least, like, to a degree. Like,
yeah. It's, like, you look at the difference between, like, you know, people like pro fighters or basketball players. Like, that's a lot of cardio. That's a lot of, like, burning, you know, calories and stuff. Like, those people are lean for a reason. They got to move fast. Football is an intense, contact-heavy sport in which you're getting hit at high speeds by big boys. You need to be a big boy in order to get hit by other big boys.
Exactly.
That's why you protect your quarterback. Quarterbacks are usually smaller boys that are trying to be hit.
Medium boys.
Medium boys. In context of the big boys trying to hit them.
Yeah.
They're small boys.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, they're there to be agile and quick.
Exactly.
But then the big boys trying to hit you.
It takes all boys.
It takes all boys.
Small, medium, large, everything in between and outside of that.
Football is a great microcosm of how we should appreciate our boys' bodies.
Thank you.
There's a role.
Protect our small boys.
Protect our small boys.
But
Celebrate.
try to hit them with your big boys.
And celebrate your big boys.
Yeah.
When they hit the small boys.
Mulch your boys. No, but it's a very clear example of like just people not having a fucking clue on health, fitness, and bodies. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you could want him to walk out with his fucking abs and his whatever, but like, even he was just like, nah, man, like that's not realistic. You know what I mean? It's like, he's a literal professional sports person. He knows this shit. And I think
arguably like at the top of his game.
He won a Superb Bowl.
Yeah.
You know the Rob McElhenney quote?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm gonna read it.
I do, but please, it's
I'm
great.
gonna fucking read it.
Yeah.
He, for those that don't know, is your man from Always Sunny in Philadelphia who put on a lot of weight for one season and then for another season got incredibly shredded.
Yeah.
And he said, look, it's not that hard. All you need to do is lift weights 6 days a week, stop drinking alcohol, don't eat after 7 p.m., don't eat carbs or sugar at all. In fact, don't eat anything you like. Get the personal trainer from Magic Mike, sleep 9 hours a night, run 3 miles a day, have a studio pay for the whole thing over a 6 to 7 month span. I don't know why everyone's not doing this. It's a super realistic lifestyle and an appropriate body image to compare oneself to.
I mean,
that's it. Like,
one of the things there's a great interview with Joel McHale, who plays Jeff on Community, in which he talks about like the struggles in the scenes where he's had to gone shirtless, because he's like, you know, he's in very good shape in that, but he's like, yeah, man, I was dehydrated. Like, I wouldn't drink water for like 3 days in order to do it.
It's like when you perform in like a bodybuilding competition as well, you literally have to dehydrate the shit out of yourself.
I mean, there's stories of Chris Evans, who plays Captain America, in Winter Soldier, I believe, in the scene where he's holding the helicopter, like using the two things to hold the helicopter to the landing pad. Apparently he passed out like twice during that. And I got to give you some insider information here. He's not actually holding a helicopter. He's pretending. But
Wait, what?
The fatigue and
Sorry, I don't understand. You mean he's not like they had a fake landing pad because he's so strong, him and the helicopter would rip it off?
Yeah, it was just rip off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like his like acting of that strain, because he needed to be so cut and jacked for that, like he was passing out. And it's like, these are the lengths in which men are going to proceed. And Dwayne Johnson is also really, really good at
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson is really good at. I remember I think it was Hobbs and Shaw in like the final fight.
He's also holding a helicopter.
Yes. But I think in the final fight, he's shirtless in it. and in the rain and whatever. And he walks through, like, I remember watching it on Instagram being like, here are the things that I've done in order to look this way for this scene. And I thought it was really interesting to be like, oh, cool. Here's a guy whose like whole career really is based on being like just absolutely a monster of a man, being like
the kind of boy you'd slam off a small boy.
Yeah. And him being like, this isn't what I look like.
Yeah.
Like, even though I'm a jacked, super fit man, like the amount of work that I had to put in to look this way on camera is
versus the fact that he is a very fit person.
Yeah.
But if you didn't catch him on camera, he would probably look more like Mr. Kelce on the beach.
Exactly.
Which, again, don't be a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
Let us be. Also, for the guys out there, that is unrealistic. And not even in like you probably can't get there. You can't get there. If you have 6 to 7 months of fucking, as Rob McElhenney put it, a studio paying for it, because it's money, it's time, it's effort, it's all these things that most people just cannot do.
Yeah. I mean, during the pandemic, I was working out 5 days a week because I had the time to do it. I was lifting weights 5 days a week. I was going on like 2 to 4 to 5K runs every other day.
I did the opposite. I got chunky.
But the thing is like, that was a really big eye opener for me in terms of, by the end of it, it's like I'd slimmed down, I'd lost weight, I could see my abs again, but I wasn't fucking jacked. I wasn't shredded. I wasn't toned.
Yeah, there's almost like that feeling that like, oh, if you just did a bit, like if you went to the gym once or twice a week, or like, you know, you get there, or like, oh, you stopped drinking beer as much, or no, like
that's the thing.
You need to do an unholy, insane amount of shit to get there, but that doesn't matter.
And it's not to, and it was funny because like during this time, a lot of people were like, you can't look X amount away without steroids, without whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and I think there's truth to that. You know what I mean? Like, there is absolute truth.
Like
being
almost all the people who like are like, oh, I got this way naturally, I got this way, whatever. It's like, oh, 3 years later, I've been on steroids the whole time.
Yeah. So, but I also don't want to disparage people who, like, a lot of, like, they've worked for a body that they've got.
No, that's great.
By all means. But, like, that's not, like, if you ask them what they've done, it is not a averagely sustainable thing, right? Like, if you're a fitness influencer, the chances are is like, you're probably not going out for wing nights with the boys and crushing some beers every other weekend, right? Like, chances are
or you just are lucky genetically.
Yeah.
Or you have the money and time to be able to go to the gym, and it's like, there are a million different paths, and it is fine if you're shredded and you look great. That's wonderful. Good for you. It isn't fine if you're not, and you think you need to look like that, and you don't understand that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is essentially impossible. And it's also not fine if you expect men to look like this impossible, like, standard.
And it's also not fine is if you look this impossible standard
and you lie about,
or you've gone like you've done things to hurt yourself in order to get there, like dehydrating yourself and starving yourself, right? Like, we shouldn't have to enable eating disorders, or you know what I mean, like unhealthy.
In fact, we should do the opposite.
Yeah.
And of course, this all stands for women as well. I hope everyone understands that, but I'm going to say it anyway. You know, it's the same for women.
Yes, and like the thing is like, it's been great to watch these campaigns from big companies. Yeah. And I understand there's a little bit of like, it's capitalism, whatever.
Yeah, like, oh, look, we're doing positive, wink, buy our products.
Yeah.
But like, I'll take that over.
That's the thing. I never understood it. I remember going to like media study courses when I was young, like when I was in high school, and then being like, here's the thing. And I was like, sure. Like, yes, I understand that a woman is being objectified there, but like, if you just direct your gaze slightly to the left, you'll see a man with a giant bulge and chiseled abs and absolutely handsome and a rock, you know, like a chiseled jawline. And I was like, I don't look like that dude. So I don't understand why we're ignoring his presence in this image when we're talking about the pressure that woman is putting on women. What the fuck is that dude doing to me? Yeah. And the amount of times I was asked to leave a classroom once because I brought it up. And it's like, there's this weird...
They weren't equipped to talk about this 10 years or 20 years ago.
And,
you know?
Yeah.
Which sucks. And they're still not necessarily, you know?
Yeah, there's this weird knee-jerk reaction to whenever a dude, like, sort of points out being like, this would be unacceptable if it was a woman.
Yeah.
Or this makes me feel shit
Mm-hmm.
being like, yeah, but what about women though?
Yeah.
And like it seems
that's-
to be a weird knee-jerk reaction.
Yes.
And it's just like, I'm not trying, like at no point in
Me
time.
saying that doesn't take away from
Yes.
this in any way. In fact, it is actually the same fight.
And yes, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's putting us on the same page,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not two different books.
Mhm.
It's literally this, as you said, the same fight.
Yeah.
And
Also, like, a lot of the shitty men who aren't for the women's side in this cause probably would be more so if anyone looked at their cause. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because I feel like the people who are the shittiest, like the incels and whatever, they're so battered down and bruised from like toxic masculinity and the patriarchy and everything. They just don't know what to do with it. And they're like, women. And it's like, well, no. But if somebody was like on their side in a way and this way, I think they would have more empathy for the other side.
Yeah.
Not that there is another side. But anyway, we are definitely on the side of women as well. And we agree. Everything we've said stands for that too. But like growing up as a guy, it's like you're fucked because you're too light. You're too heavy. You're too you're too tall. You're too short. Like it's really hard. Whereas like, because I remember feeling I was a very skinny teen.
I was
And I
also
think-
very skinny when I was younger too. Like I was tiny.
I think as a girl, it's like no one's like, oh, you need to put more weight on. You're meant to be skinny, right? Whereas as a guy, everyone was like, oh, what do you weigh? Really? What do you weigh? Oh, only this? And you're just like, fuck. But then the big guys as well, it's like, oh, you're too much.
Yeah.
So it's like there's this weird like middle band you had to hit. Whereas I think for women, it was just like you had to just be the lowest, which again,
Bad.
awful.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying it isn't, but yeah.
It was, yeah, it's tough. And it's like also the way that women perceive men is in a different way in terms of like media consumption, right? Whereas like for the most part, men are kind of like just we're shoved like a certain body type. We're like, this is attractive. Like in the 90s, it was like the rail thin,
No butt.
super thin, like supermodels being like, this is what you find attractive. And then everyone was just like,
Okay.
men are shit because they find this attractive. And it's like, I don't think any dude really finds like the average, like what we're being told is hot on like a full scale, right? Like there was, and then like, you know, once we got into sort of the 2000s when it was like, oh, now we like thick women. Now, you know, like people like Beyonce was coming
Butts are
out.
allowed.
Yes, you right. Like, and then we started getting like people where it's like, oh, this is hot. It's like Kim Kardashian is hot. And it's like, great. Like, why are like, and then all the sort of like vitriol would then get like dumped on men being like, this is what men want. It's like, I don't know if it is. I'm not sure this is what we want. It's like, you're just saying that it is. And like, we all have, much like everybody else, our own
Spectrum of
personal,
views, yeah.
like our own personal preference of sort of a body type or whatever. And like, sure, there are people who are susceptible to that kind of like training and focus
Yeah,
and
and
stuff.
if it's all you're
But-
being blasted too, right?
But it's also the same way, like I grew up with predominantly friends who are women. And growing up, it was just like, all I was ever told was like, that person is hot because of this. And like, and then like you try to like look kind of like them, but then they would no longer be hot. And you know, it's like, it was almost like a reverse cycle of being like, the media was telling everyone that this is what men wanted. Meanwhile, all of your friends who are female were also telling you that like the opposite is what they wanted. It was such a weird thing to like grow up in and be just being like, I don't know anything. Like I'm so confused on all fronts. It's like I'm being told this is attractive, but I don't really find that attractive. This is what I find attractive, and I'm being told it's not attractive. And also, I'm being told I'm not attractive because I don't look like this, but everyone who doesn't want this, they want that. And she's
So-
like, where am I?
You know what's weird? I don't think like the men that have been put forward as being attractive have really changed much,
No,
like at all.
no.
I think it's just like generally rich, well built,
The jawline.
jawline,
The
like
jawline, tall.
yeah, tall jawline. Like that's kind of it, and it hasn't changed.
No,
'Cause
if
you're
look
right.
at-
Like there's been like, oh, these are the women. Oh wait, these are the women. These are the women now, and it's like there's kind of been this like up and down and this change, but like men have kind of stayed the same.
yeah.
I don't know if that's better or worse.
I mean, yeah, it's like if you look at like
It's still unattainable. It's like, hey, be 6'6", right?
Yeah. Like if you look at like Marlon Brando and compare him to like young Marlon Brando and compare him to like Chris Evans, like really there isn't a whole lot of change, and there hasn't been. Like there was that brief spike of like people being like, we're into dad bods.
But even like the dad bod thing is like the dad bods they point out aren't dad bods.
They're just like average
it's
guys.
Like, oh yeah, I'm a father. I'm pretty shredded, but I got a little bit of meat. It's like, no, that's not it.
It's like you're off in. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio also, like, in between movies. Like
which actors have had a dad bod, right? In any way, like no action movies, no romantic leads, no like Thor, I guess.
Yeah,
but like. Apart from like, oh, look, there's a quaint old movie about like a hometown guy. And even then, like no one's had like a belly.
Yeah.
And that's insane. We all got bellies.
Yeah.
You know?
We're like half an hour.
This is just going to be the episode.
This triggered us, guys. It started as a joke and then we...
Yeah. Do we even go to questions at this point?
I mean, I guess we should probably at some point, right?
Yeah, I guess. You know what's funny? So no, fuck this. I'm gonna keep talking about this.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, I was very skinny. I also didn't like get taller until like a little bit later, and that was always very like I always felt very insecure about it, especially my weight. Like I always felt like I was way lighter than everybody, and like muscle meant mass meant heaviness, right? Yeah. So it's like someone who was whatever was like strong, and I was not because I was only like 10 stone. So I remember just like
some of us didn't grow up in the medieval times.
I believe 140 pounds.
Okay, thank you.
So I was like 140 pounds for like a long time, from like when I was like 13 till like 18, 19, maybe even longer. And it wasn't until probably the last 3 or 4 years that I started to like gain weight. And I went from 140 to like, I was like 210 pounds. So like, especially after COVID, where, as I said, I did get a little chunky because I don't know what it was. I just could not work out. I was stuck at home and I was like, bleh. I was doing a lot of work. Like I was writing a lot. I was doing a bunch of podcasting, but like there was just something about where like my day to day is very active. Like I cycle over 100 kilometers a week. You know what I mean? I'm on my feet like 20,000 steps a day. But like when I had no, like it was all very natural and inbuilt to my day, and like rock climbing. But then when I wasn't doing those things, I found it really hard.
For me, it was like an opportunity to be like, I finally have the time to see if what I want to do with my body is possible.
Yeah.
Right. So I was just like, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. I'm going to work out intense. I'm going to run a lot. I'm going to eat well. And I was like, because if I can't do it now, there's no way I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Ever. Right.
Yeah.
And that was a really cathartic experience of being like, oh, that dream of like pulling my shirt off out of a, dripping wet and being fucking jacked. It's not going to happen. I will not be able to achieve that
unless you join the Patreon and take this time. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because I really like, it's funny where like, I almost did that in a different way where like, I want to be a writer and I had just gotten a full request off the agency that represents Stephen King. So like my whole thing was like, this is my chance. I'm not working. So I'm going to make writing my job.
And then you
do it like 9 to 5.
Mom spaghetti all over you.
Yeah. Yeah. It was my one shot. I did miss my chance to blow, which sucks. Eminem didn't do a rap about when you do miss your chance to blow. And you still vomited, so it's the worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
No, and like I put stuff into that, but like I don't know what it was. I just could not work out. It sucked.
Yeah.
I put on a bunch of weight, you know what I mean? And then I went from this world where I was like, oh no, I'm so skinny, I need to put on stuff, to like being like heavier, and it's like that didn't fix anything. Yeah. This sucks. And then being really like, oh shit, I need to lose weight. And that took me so long. Even when I went back to work and I was cycling again, not hundreds, but over 100 kilometers a week and doing all this shit. And like, it took me a long time to get back to what I felt was like comfortable or like not a constant source of like massive shame and like,
I mean, I
resentment. Like I hated the way I looked, you know what I mean? And it wasn't too different to how I look now. That could be a good or a bad thing. in my head, it's a bad thing, but like it was fucked. And it's like that's the shit. Like that gets you. It's like that shouldn't bother me. It shouldn't stay with me. You know what I mean? But it did.
Yeah, I'm probably the heaviest I've ever been, and probably also the most uncomfortable in my body that I've ever been. Despite the fact that, like, once again, like I have an incredible partner who gives me probably the most reassurance and validation in terms of like,
I think you look great.
Thank you.
I know that also means nothing when you look at yourself in the mirror, but I would hope it would be like a little inch, because I think I looked at myself so much worse. But maybe you guys are all like, yeah, he looks like shit, you know? But like, I felt like shit. I really did.
And that's the thing. It's like, I think that, and I don't know, again, we can only speak on sort of like the male experience and the, you know, the experience. And I'd be really, really interested. So if you're a lady or someone who identifies as a lady, if this is something that you also experience and feel of being like, despite the fact that everyone's like, you look great, you know, and you're paid a bunch of compliments that you don't feel are trite.
We know that's the fact, though, right? Like,
you know, it's like I get a lot of validation, I get a lot of compliments, and my partner makes me feel very, very good about my body, and that is something I'm not really used to. Not to say that like anyone made me feel bad about my body, but it was never really something that was consistently complimented. Yeah, right. Like we talk about a lot. There's sort of like a compliment drought for men.
Yes, for sure.
And my partner is very, very good at paying me compliments. And it's one of those things where I was like, oh, words of affirmation is definitely a love language for me. It is, it's really changed sort of like a sort of a dynamic part of me that's like, oh, that's nice. Like, you know, but there is, like you said, like there's, despite, you know, everyone in the world could come up to me and be like, you look great. I wouldn't change a thing about you.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
there's only so much I could do. I think like you need it and it's good. Yeah. And the more of it, the better. You know what I mean? But like, there's always going to be that shitty part of you that doesn't believe it. And that shitty part of you that thinks they're just being nice and whatever. Yeah. And even if they do, it really matters what you think.
Yeah.
You know, and yes, you can change how you think eventually.
Yeah. And like, I think it comes down to like also a part of like being happy and comfortable, right? Like for me right now, I put on stuff and I'm just like, and it's very difficult to find clothes that make me feel good. I've recently adopted sort of a much looser style of clothing. And that's made a big difference, but it's like, I put on a t-shirt and I'm just like, no.
Yeah, dude, there were a lot of t-shirts I retired during that. And like, it's funny because you'd almost go out and like, sometimes you just like forget it, which is nice.
Yeah.
And then you'd see a picture from that night and you're like, oh my good God Christ. Yeah. Like there were ones from karaoke that like, I was just like, cool, I'm just going to jump in front of a bus. Thank you very much. There were ones where like we went out, one of my friends got engaged in England and then came back. I went out on like a winery tour and like I saw a picture. I was like, Jesus fuck. Like, and I've never like, it's funny because even when I was like, damn, I'm so skinny, I need to like not be skinny and put on weight, and it just never would work or happen. At least I was, I guess, maybe used to myself at that point. So like, I didn't hate, like I hated pictures in what I think was like a normal way. Yeah. Like no one's like, I'm amazing.
Yes.
Model right there. Yeah. But it got to like a really upsetting, like, oh God, I was disgusted, you know? And for a long time, like I hated pictures, felt very uncomfortable, like everything about myself. It sucked.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially, like I agree where like you see pictures and you're like, you feel sort of an immediate, like, that's not me. Yeah. Like, is that what I look like? Is that what
people think or see me as?
Yeah. Is that like sort of like and it's tough to reconcile with, like, going back to sort of like the original point of being like, it's tough to reconcile with the idea of like when someone like Travis Kelce, who is in shape, very fit, very athletic, very whatever. Well, like, and that's being called like being like body shamed. Yeah. And being called a dad bod. It's like, if that's a dad bod, like,
what the fuck is my bod?
And also like, what are the people like, and again, I'm very lucky to have the reassurance of a partner and friends, and you know what I mean? Like I have a support system of people who make me feel not bad. Yeah. But like for people who are overweight or obese or struggling
Mhm.
with a body image to the point of mental illness, to the point of like a mental risk, like it blows my mind that someone would sit down and like type an article and like
Yeah,
feel
it's fucking
feel
disgusting.
good about that.
I assume they don't, but maybe they do.
Yeah.
And the fact that like it sucks. Sometimes you got to do a job for money.
Yeah.
But at some point in this chain, whether it be that person, which like, look,
But even still, capitalism, like, how are you not smart enough to know that, like, criticizing someone's body, especially someone as sort of like neutral
maybe
or
that's
good?
the point. Like the point is either you get the people that agree, or more likely get the people that cause a furor, and then a million people click your fucking link. Like, I don't know.
But why not, like, coming from like a capitalistic standpoint, why not be like, I'm gonna fucking flip it around and be like, finally, like, it's nice to see couples like just existing.
Like, I think that's actually, I'm going to make a little comparison with our podcast right here. I think a lot of the sex and dating advice shit that goes viral or does well is bullshit because it's inflammatory. So
Sure.
the people who, no offense, want a simple answer are like, hell yes. And the people who are a little bit more critically minded are like, what are you doing? But the combination of that shoots you right to the top.
True.
We could do that. We like to not give bullshit answers, and I don't think that's very satisfying for a lot of people.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, it's certainly not marketable, right?
Yeah, like I think it should be.
Yeah.
And I think like that's the reason why we don't have flashes in the pan, right? We have constant growth. We have really like every single listener we have is cool.
Yeah.
Like we've never had an issue.
Yeah.
So that's great. You guys are all fucking legends. I'll say that now. But if you're still here after this entire episode where we're not going to talk about anything but this issue, which is important, but you know,
It is important.
we did read out a whole this week on.
Yeah.
And it's, you know what? Let's do those questions on the Patreon.
Yeah. Or do we try to do we rapid fire them just so we're not disappointing?
In 10 minutes?
I think we could do it.
Mine are pretty in depth.
Okay. Mine aren't really.
Or maybe they're not. No, one of them definitely is.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Maybe there'll just be a short episode where we talk about the reveal that, in fact, hey, I don't know if you know this, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, and I don't know if you're ready for it, but men have a crippling amount of insecurities.
Yes.
An insane amount of insecurities. And it's something that we struggle with on a day-to-day basis, and often quite quietly.
Yes, because we're also not really allowed say it.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, in the way where like men aren't allowed to be emotional, men aren't allowed to be vulnerable. It feels shitty to say them.
Yeah.
Like I've never told anybody that I felt like shit about my body, really. Kind of my partner.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Like I've been struggling with that since COVID for a long time.
Yeah.
This is pretty much the only time I brought it up. You know what I mean? That sucks.
Yes.
You know? And like part of it is like I was like, oh, I can deal with it. But it's like, should I?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think that
I'm sure like you've probably noticed me say like, oh, I don't like the picture, or like subtle things, but like, I don't know. And it's dumb.
But I think that's like quintessentially like the male experience, or like the healthy male experience of being like, I can deal with it, but should I? Is I think that's kind of like our motto of being like, here there's a significant challenge that I'm facing right now, whether it be physical or mental or emotional, and us immediately defaulting to, I have to do this alone until I've reached critical mass, or like
I deal with it.
Yes.
Right. It's like it's I hit 0, I hit 100. Like it becomes a real problem, or I guess I eventually get over that hump.
Yeah.
And that sucks because like what helps you deal with things is support.
Yeah.
And if you don't share the load, and like it sucks because did I deal with it? Yes.
Yeah. But
should I have to? No. If I had been more open about it, would I have been easier to deal with? Yes. Do I do a podcast saying that people shouldn't do what I did all the time? Yes.
I mean, but and that's why we have the show, right? Like we're trying to normalize the behavior and the challenges of not just dudes, but like everyone faces of talking, communication, bringing things up, I think there's a specific challenge for men to do those things. Because like you said, like we are taught at a very young age, whether it's intentional or overt or not. Like I grew up in a very supportive house. Like my parents were always very encouraging of emotional discussions and stuff. Like I was very lucky. And I also grew up around, like I said, like the majority of my friends were women. So they were always very okay with me being emotional.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a sexual or romantic partner or like right. Like I was one of them.
I don't know if I could say the same in terms of like my family's not,
but I feel like a lot of men like, and even still like under those circumstances, under those like incredibly, what I would imagine are fairly rare circumstances.
Yeah. And even that's still hard.
It's still very, very difficult.
Because like social pressure is this weird God just kind of like morphing you into this thing. And like, you can't escape it, you know? I want to say to everybody listening, maybe especially the men, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
We're like, I hope you know we love the women too. I hope you know we feel the pain of the other side of the struggle. And it's not just two sides, there are a million sides. You know this. But just because you can deal with something doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Even if you're like, cool, I can suffer a few months, few weeks, few years, I'll be all right. Just because you can.
Yeah.
You know?
And
that's something I'm very guilty of all the fucking time. You know?
Because it's like we haven't normalized it yet, right?
No.
And it's like the more we...
And there's almost like a pride in doing it, which like...
Yeah, I mean like that's...
But like it shouldn't, like you're letting the shit parts of life win when you do that. Like you're shouldering a load you shouldn't have to shoulder by yourself.
I've tried to... What I've tried to do is I try to give myself like... depending on the circumstances and depending on how serious the situation is, I try to give myself a couple, like a time frame of being like, I'm going to work through it for this amount of time by myself. Because sometimes you do need to do a bunch of self-reflection, right? And I strongly believe that the first step in success is analyzing your situation and the things that you've done and you know what I mean? Like, regardless of what it is, and being like, okay, I realize I overreacted here, or maybe I'm insecure because of this reason. And like, it helps inform your next steps.
Yes. And if you then do seek help, at least you can be informative.
Yes.
You can be like, hey, here's the sitch.
Cause I don't want to be like,
help me. How? I don't know.
I don't know.
What's going on?
I don't know. What's
something?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's specifically what my concern is, right? Like I never want to go to someone with a problem or express a problem. And someone was like, why do you feel that way? I don't know. How can I help? I don't know. That doesn't help anyone, right? And then like chances are I'm going to get really insecure about it and then probably never bring it up again because that's so the thing. Useless.
You're going to be way more insecure if you don't know how to express your shit.
Yeah.
Or like they might say something which won't be their fault that might not be helpful because they don't know what's going on. Then you're like, fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah. So I like to be like, okay, if it's a smaller thing, like a couple days, if it's a bigger thing, whatever. And I'll sort of like set a time frame and be like, if by X amount of time I haven't sort of figured it out, I'll probably go to like you guys, right? Like I'll go to my boys first, my friends, my best friends, my closest friends, or a partner, and sort of like figure it out. If it's a problem regarding someone specific, I'll probably go to them first and be like, great, here's what I've come up with. Yeah. Here's how I feel. Here's what I've come up with. Here's what I've determined. I need help. And it's thankfully like there's a lot of time where like things just kind of heal naturally in terms of like people will pick up on stuff and I will be able to process stuff and I'll be like, okay, I understand why I feel this way, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you don't really need to go much further than that. But I think there's a lot of people who don't have the tools that I have. Like I've benefited greatly from doing this show of being empathetic and putting myself in the shoes of hundreds of problems at this point in time, right? Of being like,
there's also like a weird honesty where like we come in here and it's like, we just talked about a thing I haven't talked about, you know? And it's like, I didn't second guess or question it because when we come in here, we're always honest. Like, maybe to a fault, maybe we talk about shit we shouldn't, but like there would be no point doing the podcast otherwise, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, this was not something we planned. Like, we did not
We
plan
read out the questions we were going to do.
Yeah, like
And it's 44 minutes later.
we fully intended to do a show the way that we always do a show, but then, you know, things struck a nerve.
I spent time earlier getting the questions together, and yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I've benefited greatly from doing the show, of being like I said, empathetic and putting myself in the shoes of things. So it's like I can then pull on the experiences and hopefully use the advice that I've given and be like, that I would be a hypocrite, or I would be an asshole if I didn't do X, Y, and Z.
I will say, thinking that is one of the most powerful things. I love it. I love being like, I have given this advice, or like, I would tell somebody else to do this. So I can't not, because it's very easy to give advice.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to look at people's situations and deal with it, you know, emotionlessly.
Yeah.
And logically and healthily. When you're in that situation, far harder.
Yeah.
So to be able to do that and then be like, if I then ignored the advice that I would give myself, I would be an asshole or a hypocrite. And I hate being those two things.
Yes.
So it's good. Then you do it.
I mean, I remember there were times in like my previous relationship where they would get very upset with me and be like, don't podcast me right now. And it's like,
oh, I'm sorry. Was I healthy and
this
funny?
Yeah, it's like,
and successful?
Yeah. And I was like, that's not what I'm trying to do here. But at the same time, it's like, I have to not be a complete sham, right? If I want to justify trying to help people, we did it. We've come full circle. I dropped my phone in an in-person recording. Like if I don't try to solve a problem in the way that I tell people to solve problems, or if I don't identify and communicate the way that I tell people should communicate, that's fucked up.
But like, I like to think that we are positive and give good advice. And hey, a lot of people have said so.
Yes.
So it's like, if it's like, don't podcast, or like, shit, I gotta give bad advice, I could be an asshole.
Yeah.
Fine, fuck you. Like, no.
Yeah. And it's like, that was a fun, like, I mean, not fun at the time, but
yes,
like looking back now,
fun.
Being like, oh, yes, you know, I've learned probably just as much as I've taught in this whole thing that we've done. And it's been a huge growth experiment and exercise. But I think at the end of the day, we need to acknowledge that there's a certain challenge that we all face. And again, we're dudes, so we can only speak on sort of like the male experience. But there's a certain challenge when it comes to being vulnerable, and there's a certain challenge when it comes to addressing things that there is no normalization or prevalence, or, you know what I mean? It's
any kind of
like try to think
even
of,
a nod towards, right?
Try to think of any mainstream campaign that has celebrated the average male body, or like, and I know a lot of people, and this is something I was struggling with a while ago, where it was like, if you look at like all the sitcoms, generally very average man with an attractive wife kind of situation, right?
Well, okay, and like a lot of people raise this point, it's like most comedy movies or movies in general are like, you know, Adam Sandler. Who's he dating?
Yeah, Jennifer Aniston,
the hottest person around. Yeah, but like there's no celebration of who they are. It's just like main character gets girl, which is an issue, a different issue.
It's also sort of the like part of the joke,
yes,
as well, right? And it's also so like you look at these things and you're like, sure, but you're just feeding into the male fantasy of a perfect life, which isn't reality, which isn't normalcy, which has led to things like the red pill, which has led to incel, where people are like, but I grew up thinking that all I have to do is just exist. And it's like, sure, I'm a blundering oaf. Sure, I'm an idiot. Sure, I'm insensitive. Sure, I have super conservative views or whatever. Yeah. And like, I still get the hot wife who dotes on me, and I still get the kids, and I still, you know what I mean? It's like, and there's this idea of like being like, thinking that normal or like what is normal is what's normal.
Yeah.
which is not the case.
Well, even like look at Avengers. It's like that shit's pretty positive and pretty inclusive, and they still played Thor for jokes.
Yeah.
There was never any positive ending to that or any positivity around it, right? People were like, I'm pretty sure Rocket's just like, he looks like shit.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's like, he just does his thing. And then I think is like, I'm shredded again. You're like, great.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I think it did.
I think like at the beginning of Love and Thunder, I think they showed him working out or whatever to lose his weight.
Cool.
Yeah. It's like, all right, cool. Yeah.
Like you exist in two states and it's hot God or disgusting mess.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Or punchline.
Yeah. I appreciate it. All the men salute you for that.
Yeah. So it's I guess at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is
Taylor Swift is a giraffe.
we shouldn't comment on people's bodies, right? Oh
no.
Oh no. Did we learn a lesson?
Did we learn a lesson? No. We love Taylor Swift. That's obviously a joke.
Yes.
Also, giraffes are cool. Travis Kelce, sorry. Not from us. We didn't comment on your body. You look fine.
At the end, we also I want to reach out to the dudes here, and I want to reach out to the people who may love a dude or know a dude or is friends with a dude. Compliment
your dudes,
and not just compliment, but also when they finally have the bravery to be vulnerable, don't make them feel bad about it.
Yeah, or like skate past it either.
Yes, let them be vulnerable. Normalize male vulnerability.
Yep.
Normalize male insecurity. Let us take up space in that area.
And definitely like don't just be like, what about women? Because if they suck, I'm sorry, but they probably don't suck. And if they're just talking about their experience, that doesn't have to negate a woman's. Much like if a woman said, man, it sucks that the media wants me to do X, Y, and Z. And I was like, what about men? That would suck.
Yes.
Right? So it's like, we can all have issues. We're not the enemy.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where it's like, we need to realize that this is a united front.
Yes.
Where men, if a man admits to you that they feel like shit because of societal norms, it is not your, like, that's an ally.
That's him agreeing with you, even if he doesn't know it yet.
Yeah. It's right? Like that is a potential ally that you have won.
Yes.
And all you need to do is listen for a second and be like, yeah.
Also, like, if you're dealing with the same shit, you should be like, yeah.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's the thing. It's like, it kills me when people are like, oh, I'm hurt by this. I'm hurt by this too. Fuck you. What about me? It's like, God damn it. Like,
yeah.
You know, don't, like, obviously if they're invalidating your experience, that's a different thing. If they're like, no, only men feel this, then they're a fucking idiot, right? But by saying only women feel this, that's not great either.
And let me tell you, there are plenty of statistics out there about male eating disorders,
suicide rates.
There's a lot out there that should inform you that the situation is not good for men.
No, it's very dire, but also not in any way talked about pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
So
it's like, yeah, like, again, I could show you any campaign, mainstream, on like TV, aired on TV, you know, maybe on YouTube. If you show me a campaign that talks about the effect of men's mental health in terms of like body image, I can show you 100. Like 2 campaigns for every one that you do, right? Like easily.
Yeah.
And again, not to make this like a pissing contest of misery.
No, and it's
like,
not. It's a we should all unite, not us versus you. Like, we all agree women get fucked by the media constantly.
Yeah.
All the time. That isn't, but the thing is, we're not, if we made a podcast episode about that, people would be like, yeah, duh.
Yes, of course.
But the fact that we made this episode, I'm sure some people are going to be like, huh. And that's it. That's the point, right? Like, so I'm not even going to do a bad sex writing.
Yeah.
Unless I find one on Matt. No, I won't. This has been our episode where we don't talk about the things we said we talk about.
We didn't do a damn thing.
No, sorry.
Oops. But not sorry.
If you want the questions we teased, come to Patreon.
Come to Patreon.
I think I'm just going to put them on there. And one of them's real fucking funny.
Thank thank you very much for listening.
We love you.
I don't think we've ever done an episode where we've just popped off
No.
before.
No.
We
And I didn't think today would be the day.
No,
either.
I didn't also think. I mean, like,
Honestly, Tony Pizza was...
Tony Pizza was... I think Tony Pizza crawled so that we could run today.
Yeah. Damn.
Thank you very much for listening. It means the world to us. I hope you have felt either resonated with it or have learned
Or felt better, maybe.
Yes.
And if not, fucking reach out, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we'll fucking big you up.
To us or to your friends. Like,
Yes.
take that first step. I think normalcy is the key to fixing a lot of things.
Yes.
I think making it more common
Mhm.
for us to be able to talk about this stuff.
That's why we do this, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's very, very important, and hopefully it will make you feel, if this is something you've struggled with, make you be like, oh, cool, I'm not insane.
not just me.
Oh, cool, I'm not
Yeah.
broken. Oh, cool, I'm not like losing my mind. This is something that more than I have experienced, because I promise you,
Everybody.
it's a universal thing. And I don't know how we ever got to the point where we just have left men out of the conversation and just been like,
'Cause
no,
the
they're
world
fine.
is fucked.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's again, patriarchy, right? We live in a patriarchal society where
Yeah.
men need to be upheld as sort of like the strong, stoic,
Mhm.
whatever thing.
And like,
And
that does not help. Men.
It doesn't
That's-
help us.
That's the worst thing is when people are like, oh, women hate the patriarchy. It's like, so do you, dude.
We
Give
should
me all
all.
your grievances. It's it. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
anyway, we love you. Thank you, Josh Eagle. Josh Evil. Damn.
Ooh.
Josh Eagle and the Harvest Seas for their song Paper Stars.
Put the song in minor key.
Yeah, fuck. We should do that. And we love you. Any gender identity, whoever you are, I'm sure you resonate with us, and we
Yeah.
got your back. And we love you.
And we need to work together to have each other's back.
For sure. For sure. There is no side apart from the us versus them, which is cool people versus shitheads, and poor versus rich. Eat the
Yeah.
rich.
Eat the rich. Eat the rich, destroy patriarchy, dismantle capitalism. That's it.
Join our Patreon.
Join our Patreon.
Just capitalism, baby. I don't know. But hey, join our Patreon until the point where you can eat us.
Yes. That's the thing. If we get to the point where we're so successful on Patreon and podcasting that we have entered into the 1%,
Mm-hmm.
I'll happily feed the masses.
I'll chop myself up myself.
I'll marinate
Also,
myself.
I promise to never sell out. And by that, I mean, if we get rich, we'll get assassinated by Boeing for trying to do good shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Hell
Or
yeah.
the people that hung Epstein or whatever. Although he was a piece of shit. So,
Yeah, I don't know if we want to.
I mean, people will kill us because we'll be like, oh no, they're rich, but they're nice. No.
Yeah.
And then we're dead.
We'll be a threat to the status quo.
yeah.
We'll be spies on the inside.
We'll fucking take them down. So join our Patreon and we will take it down. I will fucking. Well, Bill Gates is probably fine. Musk, though, I'll trip him up.
Yeah.
I'll fucking clip his ankle at a party and he'll be like, what the fuck? I'm like, wasn't me.
Yeah.
And I'll wink at Dane and Dane will nod and stab him in the face.
And I'll be on the website and I'll be like, change X to twitter.com.
What?
Yes. No. I'll make it back. I'll bring it back. My name's Dave Miller.
And I'm not Spain.
We've been your fuck buddies.
I love you.